Alright guys, hi everyone. Tonight, I'll be talking about Marbury versus Madison, one of the more important Supreme Court cases, and this has happened to be in the year 1803, and basically it kind of just changed the way that we kind of see judiciary branch in our government, or the role of judiciaries in our government, and it's one of those more important cases I'd say still kind of shapes our legal system today. Alright, how is our government different before the case? I'm going to try and stay away from the bullet points that are already written there. But before Marbury versus Madison, the idea of judicial review, my apologies, which is, as we know, like the power of courts to be able to declare laws unconstitutional, primarily the Supreme Court, wasn't really like a thing. And the Supreme Court really didn't have that authority to overrule laws that were passed by Congress or actions taken by the president, so the other branches. So if a law kind of went through, there was not, a lot that the judiciary branch or anyone could really do about it unless the legislature or the executive branch decided to change it. So with this, there was really not a clear system for making sure that all laws were aligned with the Constitution. But then came Marbury versus Madison, kind of totally flipped that, and courts kind of said that they actually want to be able to have the power to decide whether a law is constitutional or not, and I'd say that was actually pretty huge. So some significant aspects of the case, I do have some written down. But what actually happened in Marbury versus Madison is it kind of started with William Marbury, who was actually just appointed a justice of the peace by President Adams, who was just leaving office, as we saw right here in slide 1. Kind of talk about that a little bit and in the video from this week. But his commission to officially kind of take on the job kind of got stuck because Thomas Jefferson's new administration really didn't want to deliver it. So Marbury ended up suing Secretary of State James Madison, and he kind of asked the Supreme Court to make him deliver the commission. And then I guess an interesting part is kind of when Chief Justice John Marshall kind of ruled that Marbury had a right to his commission, but the court actually couldn't order it to be delivered because the law Marbury relied on, which was, I believe, the Judiciary Act of 1789, it was deemed unconstitutional. But I guess more of a game changer is Marshall's decision also did establish that the Supreme Court has the power to declare laws unconstitutional. That's kind of where the idea of judicial review comes from. Impact on our lives today, I'd say, Marbury vs. Madison kind of did lay down that groundwork for judicial review. We kind of have this quote right here. But it's still a part of our legal system today. It's a massive part, I'd say. It means that the courts, not only Congress or President or these other branches, can check whether laws or actions are going to go against the Constitution. But if you want to think about it, Brown versus Board of Education, 1954, without judicial review, we would not have been able to challenge segregation or those laws that were violated in the 14th Amendment that also guaranteed equal protection. So Marbury was actually directly impacted on how we fight for rights and equality, that making sure that the laws are consistent with the Constitution and can be challenged in court if they weren't. Basically, right down to the wire with Marbury versus Madison. I guess one aspect to change to bring into the 21st century is, I guess my little take on it would be reducing the lifetime appointment of Supreme Court justices. I'd say right now the Supreme Court justices, we know that they serve for life. So basically a single president and their, views can have an effect on, 40, 50 years, or, maybe more realistic, 30, 40 years. Even past their presidency. And I could say this can maybe lead to a court that doesn't always, necessarily show or make decisions that, reflect the changing values of society, if they're still kind of more set on when they were elected, those kind of views, I'd say. So that might have an effect. I'd say if we set terms limits for justices, maybe more around maybe 20 years, with the chance to maybe even be reappointed. That way each president could kind of maybe have the chance to appoint new justices during their term. And I think that kind of keeps the core of the dynamic more, modern, I'd say, and more centralized or focused on modern ideas that, the country really does need to focus on. Basically keeping things fresh. In the end, I'd basically say that it really was a huge turning point in U.S. history. Giving the courts the power of judicial review really just helped strengthen our Constitution by being able to challenge it, and having that ability as citizens, being able to challenge it really does, I'd say, reflect a lot of our amendments, making sure things are constitutional. And that's a quick little rundown.